Hello and welcome to the Warp Shelf. I'm Frank Duran.
I'm Deshaun Vasquez.
And today, it's Mortal Kombat!
I'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that so we don't get a copyright strike. Guys, welcome. Thank you for coming into the Warp Shelf. This is a triple feature here. Triple feature. We are talking about Mortal Kombat 1995. We are talking about
Mortal Kombat Scorpion's Revenge.
And we're talking about the new Mortal Kombat 2021.
Yes.
But first off, we have to show you my one Mortal Kombat thing that we have on the shelf back here. We have Mortal Kombat Classic as a tiny arcade cabinet. And it's hilarious because how well done it really is. It's the whole fucking game. And it's the original game. And why I point out the original game is because almost all these movies exclusively
adapt to the original games.
Yes, and they exclusively use the characters. We have Johnny Cage, Kano, Sub-Zero, Sonya Blade, Raiden, Liu Kang, and Scorpion.
At least story-wise, they're definitely just focusing on Mortal Kombat 1, or in 2021's case, pre-Mortal Kombat 1, but we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
Scorpion's Revenge at least has like the hindsight of just like, okay, we know where the lore goes after this, so we'll try to keep it consistent. We'll bring in Quan Chi and shit, stuff like that.
Turned it on again. So my thing that I want to say right off the bat is if we combined the set of the first Mortal Kombat movie, the story of Scorpion's Revenge, and the budget of 2021, then we would have a movie here.
Then we would have something.
Then we would have finally something that felt really Mortal Kombat-ish, you know? But that's the thing, is that all three of these movies nail the feel of Mortal Kombat, but they don't really nail being a Mortal Kombat movie. And guys, before you jump in on it, no fucking video game movie is good.
No,
and
not a single
Mortal
one.
Kombat 2021 is not your savior. This is not the one
And
that's
we
going
also,
to be like, oh, thank God we finally got a good video game movie.
And for the record, we also don't care if you're still nostalgic for the 95 movie either.
No. And so, Deshaun, you have to tell them what you've been telling yourself over and over again. You can't be mean. You can't bully people.
I can't be mean to people who like Mortal Kombat 95. I can't be mean to people who like Mortal Kombat 95 because I run into it so often where I will just like trash that first movie to be like, I still like that movie. Don't stop it. You're an adult now. It's okay. And it's not to say just like, oh, Mortal Kombat should be for adults or anything like that, but it's just one of those things like, it's just nostalgia.
Yeah. And really, if you go back and watch it now, you will not feel this.
Yeah,
way.
aside from remembering, I remember the place and time where I first watched this. Like, beyond that little novelty, there's really not much to it.
Yeah, I want to say Mortal Kombat 1995 is very much like Batman Forever or Batman and Robin, you know? Like,
where everyone says the second one is worse, even though it's only marginally worse and they're both bad.
Yeah. I mean, yes, but also sets being absolutely extravagant, the costumes being extravagant, and then for some reason, at least with Batman, they had the cast, you know? But for here, that's the number one problem, I think, with Mortal Kombat 1995. The cast is ass, guys. The cast is bad. The only person who's decently good is
Shang Tsung.
Shang Tsung, and he steals the fucking show. Like, okay, Shang Tsung and Goro, they are both fantastically done, and everyone else is so lackluster.
Both the attempts at the live action films, not counting like Annihilation, that's a whole other thing, but we're talking about like the first attempts for each.
Yeah.
Each just have like a character who shouldn't be carrying it.
Yeah. Well, I feel like Johnny Cage is the perfect character. So when I'm talking about like combining these movies, just take Johnny Cage from this movie, but obviously recast him and put him in instead of Cole in the new Mortal Kombat. Which, guys, if I have to do any fucking short review of Mortal Kombat 2021, is that what the fuck are we doing making original characters? What the fuck are we up to? What is happening? Why do we have an original character, which Deshaun pointed out to me in the middle of the movie, his one superpower is plot armor. It's like a fucking isekai.
Yeah, I couldn't even take credit for that. That was making the rounds on the internet from the fucking jump when that movie came out.
But it's
perfect.
It's so perfect. It literally like broke me in the middle of watching it, because I was watching it being like, okay, well, maybe he'll be cool. And then he breaks out the plot armor, and you're just like,
so I feel like we're definitely jumping like straight ahead as far as the movies are concerned, going around a bit. What I do actually want to focus on is our history with like the actual games like growing up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You got to get some context. Yeah. Number one, my mom was like, you can't play Mortal Kombat. That's a rated M game. And then, of course, you go to your cousin's house and you're like, and that's it. That's kind of my history with it.
I had that problem.
Yeah, you didn't have a parent being like, that's too violent.
I would watch those violent movies with my mom.
Yeah, exactly. I was a big fan, of course, of Mortal Kombat 2. I think most people are fans of Mortal Kombat 2. Most people have never played this. Mortal Kombat Classic. If you're like, oh man, I'm a big fan, you may have never actually played this.
I think I played...
Because most people have played Mortal Kombat or Mortal Kombat 2, but they never played Classic, like the original.
I played Mortal Kombat Trilogy first, so I got to play all the original three,
okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Now, what is your favorite Mortal Kombat game out of all of them? Because there's a lot.
Probably 9, which is just called Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, 9. Yeah. Nine's fantastic.
It was the soft reboot.
Nine's goes the distance is basically it.
It definitely has the best story.
Yeah, I like Mortal Kombat 11. I want to say Mortal Kombat 11 is one of my favorite to play through. Like, it was the newest one, because it definitely, it didn't fucking kick my ass to get me out of the game, and that's really my problem.
The only thing that bothered me from, like, going from 9 to 10 or X was that we switched back to, like, the, instead of, when you have introduced styles in the Mortal Kombat games, I prefer that you have the ability to just switch to them on the fly. Yeah. I don't like it when it makes you choose a preset, especially a preset of 3, and you're stuck with that style for the entire fight.
You're just like, oh great, I'm fucked now.
And X had done that, and it just didn't run as smoothly as me for 9. But as far as Mortal Kombat in general, it is one of those like few fighting game franchises that still sticks with me, that when I do buy it, I get into it, which is why whenever a new Injustice game comes out, that's my fucking fighting game.
No, to be
that's
fair,
the one I pour hours into. That's the one I'm fighting.
The best Mortal Kombat game is Injustice. I know that's not a Mortal Kombat game, but it is. Like, it's NetherRealm, it's the same dudes.
NetherRealm has always had that like particular style that like makes it easier for me to play and get good at compared to other games for some reason. Like, I'm able to jump into it and actually get pretty fucking good.
He's fucking competitive with it. He's fucking good.
Those are the only games I'll actually get legitimately competitive with, because I'm mostly a single player guy.
I remember
I hated sports growing up.
Being like, oh man, I'm so good at Injustice 1, and Deshaun's like, really? Then fucking wreck me.
When Arkham Knight was coming out.
Yes.
My local GameStop, before I started working for them, was holding an Injustice tournament for the midnight release.
Oh, yeah?
And I went in and kicked everyone's ass.
Really? Did you win?
I won.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
Good for you. Fuck. I didn't know that.
including beating one of the employees who would later be like my coworker and like one of my best friends when I was working there. And he was super into the game, and I kicked everyone's ass. And the thing is, I hadn't played in a few months. It had been a while. I was rusty. I was de-rusting as I was going along, and I still was just like, "You done?"
Yeah, you done, kid. So my thing, the thing you point out often, and especially when we were talking about 2021, is that the fun part about Mortal Kombat, unlike Street Fighter, which has a very uniformed design, even though there's some fun characters like Garrick or other things, there's very much like a central design. Mortal Kombat, kind of like Super Smash Brothers, it just feels like they reached into a fucking toy bucket and just ripped shit out.
And just pulled whatever random toys that they own from differing properties, and they're just like, yeah, just smash them together. Who cares?
Who cares?
That's the tone of Mortal Kombat. because you have all these like differing factors. Here's like the martial arts side. Here's straight up sci-fi. How do they mix? Who cares?
Who cares? I think that's why I liked 11 the most to play through. It's the one I put the most amount of time instead of DC versus Mortal Kombat. I, of course, put a lot of time into that because there was no injustice. I thought this was it. Like, I fucking played the shit out of that game.
MK versus DC was so bad.
Oh, it's bad. It's bad.
It led to injustice, so that's basically its redeeming factor.
I remember being, like, upset at the game, but then never putting it down. I remember being like, oh, man, why can't they just do fatalities, you know, all these things? But then being like, nah, Jack, let's go another round.
And the thing is, they were clearly going to, but it was probably DC that put the kibosh on it.
They were like, you can't kill anybody.
You can find early footage of that game before it released where the villains, especially on the DC side, would just straight up do fatalities.
Yeah.
And you could see how they censored them when the final release came out. And you're like, come on.
Come on.
And even the Injustice games don't have fatalities, but they're still just like, yeah, we're still going to hit hard, though.
Yeah, and I think that's the great thing about Mortal Kombat vs. DC. It gets that, like, whatever works type of fighting game thing. And that's why I love 11, is that they kind of went really hard on the DLC characters here. Which, I mean, it's the main money now. If you know anything about fighting games, the main money is DLC.
I don't get how much pull Ed Boon has.
Right? What the fuck,
just
dude?
Fucking gets what he wants.
That man is a fucking genius.
It was already weird enough, because these, like, ridiculous DLC characters started with 9. You already had, like, the big pull just like, yo,
wild like
Kratos is in it. You're like, fuck yeah, that's a perfect fit. It was just like, oh, by the way,
it almost felt Soul Calibur-ish in that way, where they were like, we're just going to bring over one of the main franchises from somebody else. And you're just like, cool.
Yeah, Soul Calibur 3 had Link for the GameCube, Spawn for the Xbox, which is really random. It's so weird, though. And then Heihachi for the PS2.
One bit of Soul Calibur. Is that Soul Calibur 4?
That's 2.
2.
4 has Star Wars.
4 has Star Wars. Right, Yoda and Darth Vader. I fucking love that. But those were some of my favorite DLCs, like, ever. Until, of course, Smash Brothers Ultimate, when they just went fucking ham. But just like,
9 had Kratos, and then you're like, okay, that's ridiculous, but that's awesome, and that works. But then for DLC, they were like, Freddy Krueger. You're like, what the hell did you just say to me? Can you say that again?
Can you say that again?
You're like, okay. So, like, how can we top it even further? Then you go to X, and you're like, okay, now it's just fucking full-on horror stuff. Yeah. We got the Xenomorph. We got Predator. We got Jason. We got fucking Leatherface, which makes me wonder. It's just like, guys,
can you just make a horror game?
Can you just make a fucking slasher fighting game?
Seriously,
I would
though. Seriously, fucking
my goddamn
mind. My goddamn money.
That was my bread and butter growing up, was like 80s slasher movies. Yeah. A fighting game with that much polish thrown at it and that much money.
And I can see how, like, Hellraiser would work in a fighting game. You know, like, you can literally, like, see it in your head. You know, like, and it's just like, oh, man.
So then you get to 11, then you're just like, RoboCop, Rambo, The Terminator.
They go full, like, 80s action movie.
It's awesome.
You're just like, hell yeah.
But just the sheer pull. But that attests to the whole, like, bunch of action figures, smash them together. Oh, here's my Rambo toy. Just bring it over. Why not? But that's also, and this speaks to both the first movie as well as MK versus DC. It's hard for me to ever accept the validity of any Mortal Kombat game that's not allowed to be a hard R or an M for mature.
No, absolutely.
Because, to be honest, as well designed as that first Mortal Kombat game is, it made its name for itself because of the fatalities and because of its violence and because of its controversy.
Is that the real reason why you know Mortal Kombat is that this is not the first M-rated game. But this definitely made them be like, holy fuck, we need a rating system. You know,
Mortal
like,
Kombat.
This is kind of like Jaws, where they were like, shit, we need a rating system. You can't just have people being eaten on screen.
In the same way that, like...
They're like, too bad.
In the same way that, like, Jaws and, like, Temple of Doom was the thing that inspired the MPAA to create PG-13 as sort of a middle ground because it was too violent to be a PG, but not quite an R. Mortal Kombat and Night Trap, of all things. We're
You're like, my Night Trap.
It's so fucking funny to look back on that was so controversial. It's so campy.
It's so campy.
It's so ridiculous.
I have it on my Switch, and it's so campy.
But Mortal Kombat and Night Trap were the two games that rose up so much controversy that there were Senate hearings. It led to the creation of the ESRB. So I refuse to accept a PG-13 Mortal Kombat movie, and I refuse to accept any Mortal Kombat game that's not M for mature.
No, it's exactly. It's not only, like, its style, it's its cultural reference.
Yeah, it's part of its iconography.
It's literally, I said earlier, my mom wouldn't let me play it. My mom doesn't know anything about video games, but she fucking knew Mortal Kombat was bad. You know, like she
because
didn't know,
every parent knew that one,
right? It's kind of one of those things that like this moral panic popped up about video games around that time,
which I feel like we get every like once every like 10 years or so.
Even Fortnite,
like,
they were like, what if they stay inside all day and play Fortnite? You're like, who cares?
Like, I can't wait for it to like pop up again whenever Rockstar drops the next GTA.
I know,
it's just
right?
gonna
like,
pop.
You
it's just
can
gonna
kill
come
a
up
hooker
again.
in there. We're gonna send it to the Senate hearings. You know, like
I gotta say, I took a very sadistic pleasure in when I worked at a GameStop of like kids trying to buy GTA 5 with their parents there and me having to list exactly just how explicit a game it is. Because one, it's kind of fun to watch their heart just sink. And two, it's funnier to me because my parents wouldn't give a fuck and I would have just been. The first game I had for my PS2 was GTA 3.
There you go.
Me and my brother pooled our allowances for Vice City and my aunt went to go and get it.
Wow, that's awesome. I remember
we ran this shit.
One of my favorite stories I always say is that I convinced my mom in the store before we went to the fucking counter that M was for monkey. It was for some game that I covered up the bloody, I forget what game it was, but there was a bloody bit and I remember just covering up the bottom of it and like showing my mom the game and being like, yeah, it's M for monkey, you know, because sometimes you play as a monkey, and like they didn't want you to be confused. And she went up to the counter, and the person went, "You know this is rated M, right?" And she went, "Yes, I do." And we got the game, and I remember being like, "We did it, boys! We did it!" like me and my brother just working together to confuse my mom.
You just fucking giving like the light Yagami like smile with the red lighter.
And push up the glasses.
Looks like I've won.
Looks like I won.
Keikakudo. So
she found out later. She found out
too
later.
Late now.
It was too late. We already owned it, but it was like one of those things that you're just like, oh no. And it sucked because it was one of those things that like we grew up playing M-rated games. One of my favorite games that growing up was Twisted Metal and Turok 2. And those are bloody games, you know, like hard M games. And my mom was so just like, no, I'm not going to get you more of those. And we were like, we need more. Please more. Like
you can't just give a kid Twisted Metal as a gateway drug and not expect them to get addicted.
Get
That's
all
I'm
of them.
saying.
That's all I'm saying. Fucking also give me my fucking Twisted Metal movie. Is you going around making Mortal Kombat movies? Fucking make Twisted Metal. Jesus Christ.
A Twisted Metal movie with like the same amount of money and polish as like Mad Max Fury Road would be fucking incredible.
Oh, give George Miller fucking
Twisted Metal. Yeah, like, you've kind of done this already. Except this time you get different types of cars to play with, and it's not all in a desert. You get to mix it up.
You're like, yeah, it could be good. It could be great. Okay, back to Mortal
like
Kombat
the M for mature thing and like how you grow up with it and how that's like part of its legacy is an important thing to bring up.
It is an important thing because one movie here, the one we'll talk about first, 1995, is not R. And it's so apparent.
Yeah, even as a kid, I hated that because I was a kid who was allowed to watch R-rated movies anyway. So I'm just like, because I do hear that one a lot too. Even James Rolfe brings it up. So it's like, well, if that movie, I was huge in the Mortal Kombat when I was a kid, and when that movie came out, if it was R, I wouldn't have been able to see it. I'm like, that's your problem.
That's your problem, bitch. And I mean, that's kind of what pissed people off about this movie too, is that you were saying that this was PG-13 and then the kids who could go see this movie couldn't buy the game, you know? Like, and you're just like, what? It's kind of like selling, to me, it's kind of like selling Halo Legos. You're like, as much as I love Halo, an M-rated game about war is not exactly the best Lego set, you know? Like especially a bloody one like Halo, you know, like Star Wars makes sense. Somebody gets hit by a laser, die. But like, you fucking rip people apart in Halo, you know, like. It's okay. And I always felt it was weird that they did that.
But it's okay. They're aliens. They have like yellow or purplish blood.
It's fine.
I'm going through like the Halo games now. I'm like in the middle of Halo 3, and to be honest, it's not too bad. You're
No,
gonna run into
to be
some.
fair.
You're gonna run into some problems with the Flood though, because that's just like straight up Alien / The Thing.
Yeah, right.
And
it's
those
like,
games already have like a lot of aliens influence, especially.
Yeah, right.
The whole like Space Marine aesthetic. You're like, wow, that ship looks just like the one in Aliens.
Right.
Yo, that vehicle's straight up the fucking buggy from Aliens.
Just like
Which,
you're not even
you know,
hiding this, guys.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. It's one of the
Especially since we only have like two good Alien games, so why not go for it?
So Mortal Kombat 1995. You can't. This is the start of the plague of Paul W.S. Anderson. This is the reason why they give Paul W.S. Anderson video game movies.
Yeah.
They just unapologetically give him these movies. Like, no, they're just like, no, of course you've done all these other money-making video game movies. But they're never good. Like, okay, let's go through it. Let's fucking go through
Mortal
Paul
Kombat.
W.S. Anderson's, like, the only good one on his entire list here, the only one that works in any way, like, out of all his movies, is fucking Event Horizon. And that still has a shitty
And even
ending.
then, that has its own problems.
That has its own problems. But I think it's funny that he does Mortal Kombat and then he does Event Horizon.
I also,
you're like,
ironically, despite my rant about like PG-13, I also have always had a soft spot for the first AVP. It ain't great, but it ain't great.
No, and to be, as a kid, I grew up loving AVP.
Yeah.
I thought it was great, but yes, it does have the problems of being a PG-13 movie for an R-rated content.
It was ironic
you're just
that
like, what the fuck?
sequel was so much worse, and that was rated R.
Right?
Like, oh,
they were like,
how
we're
does
gonna
that-
kill a kid right off the bat, bro.
This isn't how this works. It's supposed to be better. You finally went there. But
So, you have Paul W.S. Anderson fucking up the whole Resident Evil franchise. That's what happens. He fucks up the Death Race franchise, which wasn't even a fucking video game. It was just Roger S. Corman making cheap movies, and somehow Death Race is bad. You know, like in a franchise of purposely bad movies, Death Race is bad.
another example of just like what we should just be getting is a good Twisted Metal movie.
Right, and then, oh god. Yeah, he does all the terrible Resident Evil movies, and then he does the new Monster Hunter movie, which I have not seen because you ain't fucking hurting me. You can't hurt me, Paul W. Anderson. I ain't fucking doing it, bro. I will watch it. I will at some point once it's free on Netflix or something, because I'm not paying money. You ain't getting a fucking cent from me, bro.
I don't play Monster Hunter, but the moment I heard the premise of just like, as soon as I heard the American military, I'm like, oh, you fucked it up.
You fucked it up.
Oh, you
it's
fucked
wrong.
it up.
Yeah, exactly.
I know where we're going with this. What the fuck? Who the hell asked for a Monster Hunter isekai? What is this shit?
Yeah, exactly. But that's the problem, is that for some reason, every video game movie needs to be an isekai. Even fucking Sonic is an isekai to the real world. It's just Sonic getting stuck in the real world. Like, what?
The most annoying thing is that I feel like out of all of these ones, the one that has the most potential is that first Resident Evil movie.
Yeah.
Because that shit goes off the rails, but it at least starts like, okay, Stars Group, zombies, in the mansion. The mansion is way more elaborate than it should be. Origins of the T-virus, different types of infections.
You're like, and it's, I give credit to his wife.
There are pieces, Mila Jovovich.
But she's good. She's always good.
And
I'm not fucking discrediting her.
She's a good actress.
It's just
But
him.
this was post-Resident Evil 1 was when they got together. So then that became like Mila Jovovich, the character. And that's another case of like original character for no fucking reason, even though we have plenty to choose from. And then it got so much worse. And then it got so much worse with those movies because it became Paul W.S. Anderson's like fanfic about his wife.
Yeah, it really was. Like, it's kind of funny
and
because
then they turned into like this faux Matrix thing later. It was so weird.
It's not even faux Matrix. It's faux her other films. That's the other that's the problem here. Is it's not what's the other one she's famous for? The one with the lichens. The fucking
different actress. You're thinking of
I am.
Yeah, you're thinking of Kate Beckinsale.
I am thinking of Kate Beckinsale.
Yeah.
But
what I
both
say faux
terrible
Matrix
movies,
is because
both fucking awful.
later on, like pretty much 3 onwards is when you get to like real Matrixy kung fu martial arts shit for no reason. You're like, this is not Resident Evil. What are we doing here?
God damn. And it's funny because they take away, it's funny, they give him Resident Evil 1, and then they take him away for Resident Evil 2. And then he comes back for Resident Evil Afterlife. You know, like, he's like, whoa, my baby.
I think that's 4. I think he was
really?
gone for like 2.
Because I thought it was 3. Because it says 3D in the bottom, so I assume if they're saying 3D,
I'm pretty sure
like
the third one,
movie.
I don't even know why I remember this, but I'm pretty sure the third one is Apocalypse.
Oh, yep. Because, yeah, the next one is Retribution after Afterlife.
I remember the third one was the desert one.
Right. God, just fucking awful. You know, like one of those things that, like, I'm not a huge Resident Evil fan. I definitely got in later in life. I didn't play when I was young. It wasn't like Mortal Kombat where I went to my cousin's house and he had Resident Evil. It was like I never played it, and then I've gotten into the series slowly over the years.
I've always been a Resident Evil kid.
And even I knew at the time this was wrong. You know, like
with how me with Monster Hunter. Just like, I don't know a goddamn thing about Monster, but I know that ain't it.
Right? You're just like, this is fucking wrong. But so this is Paul W.S. Anderson's first big movie. He did this thing called Shopping. That's a little indie flick. But then they give him Mortal Kombat. And they give him a fucking budget, dude. And I think he is I feel like Paul W.S. Anderson is kind of like Michael Bay in the way that he might not have good ideas for what's happening for the story. But man, does he know how to make sets and really utilize the sets, you know, like, and really make the production design speak for itself. Like, and he even does that for the Resident Evil movies.
But
which,
even then, he
doesn't
have like the technical prowess that even like a Michael Bay does.
No, because he uses, absolutely. Yeah. I don't often say to give credit to Michael Bay, but to give credit to Michael Bay, he's a visual master, you know, like the guy moves. The guy knows how to move the camera, you know, like he knows how to keep you fucking engaged.
Whether you like it or not.
And that's the number one problem with this movie is they don't give a shit if you're engaged. They don't give a shit if you care.
And whether you like it or not, and believe me, I don't. Like, that first Transformers movie redefined blockbusters for a while. Yeah. We're still kind of feeling it now. So much so that when Mechagodzilla was being made for Godzilla vs. Kong, they told him no Transformer. Don't make it look like
Don't make it look like
a Decepticon.
Right? Isn't that funny though? That they had to like say it, you know? Like
I feel like the big turning point when we were kind of like sick of it was Ultron.
Oh yeah.
Because the moment they gave him like lips, you're like, no, we're done with this. Get out of here.
Of course we were sick of it from the Transformers movies. I mean, Transformers 2 is right there for me, and I've said this before, with Attack of the Clones, where they're just bad movies, you know, like just bad sequels. And some reason people are still like, it's fine. And you're like, it's not fine. This is bad.
The first Bay film is tolerable.
What
I like
about 3
it at least has like
too. 2 is the one that fucking stinks to high hell.
1 at least has like a genuine sense of like awe. Like, it's the only one where you can like sort of feel that like Steven Spielberg producer role. It's just like, there has to be some sense of majesty. I always think to like when the Autobots first arrive on Earth, there's like this sense of like awe and scale to it. And none of the movies after that have like even that sense of it. There's like, fuck it, boomy, pew, pew.
I always think of Optimus flying backwards and shooting at the same time when I think of those movies, you know, like in slow motion. And you're just
I always think of him being a fucking psychopath.
But,
give me your face.
Yeah, right. But Paul W.S. Anderson basically goes, okay, I'm going to shoot him in wide for most of the time. But when they say something, it's a Dutch angle. What do you think? And he does that the whole movie. Like, you know, like, so he's...
Are you saying that Kenneth Branagh watched Mortal Kombat 1? He was just like, yo, that's it there.
That's the fucking visual
This
style.
is what we need for this Thor movie.
But, like, really, though, my main issue with this Mortal Kombat movie, I mean, other than the bad cast and the bad costumes, because the set, I want to get that across. The set for this movie is absolutely fantastic. It's comic accurate. They literally take frames from the back of this game and go, can you put that behind this guy? And they go, gotcha, bro. And they fucking nail it, you know, like, and that's the only thing I feel like 2021 does not get exactly right, is the set is fucking spectacular in the first, in 95, but then 2021's like, don't look at that. Don't look at the background. Look at the fighters. Look at them fight each other. They're, like, where the fuck is that last fight scene supposed to take place? Like, a black room? Like, what the fuck was that? Like, there's lava, but there's black and whatever, fuck it. But what I'm saying is that somebody behind the scenes, maybe not Paul W.S. Anderson, because he obviously doesn't love the games. He fucking hates them. Somebody behind the scenes on production design loved the games and made sure that the set looked great. And even though the costumes are cheesy, they're pretty accurate. You know, like they might not look good, but they do look like the character. Like there's no question when you look at a character that is Scorpion, that is Sub-Zero, you know, like that's Raiden. But the set is just spectacular, just fucking nuts. And I especially love the Scorpion fight when they actually do the hell with all the fucking ladders in every direction. That's one of my favorite set scenes, you know, like one of the favorite stages in Mortal Kombat, and they able to fucking get it exactly right.
Yeah, which still looks pretty good, even if you have like weird shit like, why is Scorpion's spear like this snake thing that comes out of his hand? It's just a spear.
Does that make me that I rewatched it last night. We watched a little bit of when we were getting set up just to like remind ourselves. And like, god damn it, did it make me angry the first time it comes out and it just like snakes around and stuff like that. Because when you first see Sub-Zero and Scorpion, he makes it out of his hand, yells at Johnny Cage, and then it shoots across and hits the behind him. And you're kind of like, okay, well, it's alive, but at least it's still doing the same thing. And then the next scene, which also fantastic set. Look at those trees, man. The fucking
Look at those trees.
It's so fucking nice. But then they pull a fucking Shrek where he goes around a tree and now the Scorpion thing can't get him, you know, like you're like, what did they watch Shrek and go, yeah, we should do this?
Shrek
like,
didn't exist
I know,
yet.
Shrek didn't exist yet, but it's just like, it's such a terrible trope to like
so
be
weird.
like, oh, I outran the fucking thing that was coming after me by going around a pole or something, you know, like I don't know how people don't see that as being...
It just reeks of a movie made in 95.
Yep.
And the annoying thing for me, as far as like video game movies in general is concerned, is that we're still not too far past it. We're still
and Mortal Kombat's the obvious example of that.
Yeah, we're still in this weird trepidation when it comes to video game movies.
Yep.
And sure, rule of averages, we'll get a good one eventually.
Get a good one.
But it's just one of those things where like, and I've heard this excuse before, and I'm gonna like squash it here immediately because I've gotten to like arguments with friends before. It's just like, well, you know, some of these are okay, but eventually we'll get to like the good ones. It's kind of like superhero movies. I'm like, no. Even in the early days of superhero movies, we still had a Superman 78. We still had a Batman 89.
Exactly. Where it's less like these are good examples of movies.
We had like milestones that still hold up. We haven't even had that for video game movies yet.
No, and if your one milestone is 1995 Mortal Kombat, that's not a good milestone.
The bar is super fucking low.
Super fucking low.
The bar started low, and that's why we're still kind of just slowly creeping up. There's so much like trepidation when it comes to video game adaptations.
Yeah, okay.
And it's also weird that we keep adapting fighting games specifically. And to be fair, Mortal
Kombat has a story.
It
has
wears
a story.
a
It's not like
on its
Street
sleeve.
Fighter where you're like, yeah, I get the cutscene at the end, but there's no story.
Yeah, all the
here,
story
you know?
is more inferred or like in supplemental material, but Mortal Kombat really emphasizes its lore, which is good.
I even felt like it's too much in Mortal Kombat 11 because there's something like 26 hours of literal cutscene. 26 hours, guys. That's a fucking more than a TV show, you know? Like, good for them, first off, because that's a fuckload of animation. But also, it was so much that like sometimes you'd be watching and your controller would go black and you'd have to like whack it. You know, like you'd be like, wait, hold on.
Plus 11 storyline with like the past and the future, etc., which was pretty sweet.
It is sweet. That's the thing. It's actually kind of, you know, like Mortal Kombat. It's kind of like Resident Evil, which is why these are both such tragedies. Is that they actually have story there. You know, like there's instead of like Sonic, where you're just like, so what's he gotta do? Collect the Chaos Emeralds? You know, like it's literally like, no, there's a fucking, we gotta get into this, we gotta stop Raccoon City from getting
It's
worse.
a lot more
you
cut
know,
and dry. It's not like one of those things where like, oh, you
like what the fuck are they gonna do for the Mario movie?
I was just,
you know, like what the fuck are they gonna do?
That's what I was going to say. Oh god, I'm so
nervous.
Man,
I'm so nervous for DreamWorks to do.
I
almost want Sony Animations to do it after the Michelle's vs. the Machines and Spider-Man and
Into the Spider-Verse.
You're like, those are people that understand an animated movie,
like
not fucking DreamWorks.
Going animated for Mario is definitely the best way to go.
Absolutely.
But just like,
no question.
The moment you say from the people who brought you the Minions, you're
what is it? Secret Life of Pets.
Just like, oh,
please
great.
no.
I'm glad we're really giving it to like the top guys,
right? You're just like, god damn
man,
it! Like,
could you imagine like a stop motion style like Wind Waker movie done by Leica in the same way they did Kubo? Because I mean, you look at Kubo. Kubo is already kind of a Zelda movie.
Thing.
Yeah.
Oh god, yeah, you're right though. That would fucking hey.
The fucking crabs from Finding Nemo. Hey.
But it's, I mean, that or, you give it to fucking Studio Ghibli. Like, like, I know Miyazaki might not want to work in it, but those guys could fucking do a video game movie, like, and they would understand it.
I've
more.
seen like fan art was just like, what if a Zelda Ghibli movie? And you're always just
isn't that just Nino no Kuni though? Like you're just like, isn't that just like go play that game? You're just like,
it's not the same. I want Zeldor. I want the actual brand.
Yeah, I know. But it kind of is the same.
But the point is just like this trepidation as far as like adaptations are concerned is still permeated within like the culture, and it all starts here.
Yes. No, really, it starts here. I think one of the things that was funny as we were watching it was how unintentionally 90s racist this fucking movie was. Like where you're supposed to be liking Johnny Cage, and then he says something racist to Liu Kang about him grabbing his bags. Like where you're like, I know Johnny Cage is supposed to be an asshole, but that he's racist too. You're kind of like.
And it is playing on the joke, was just like, oh yeah, I'm the rich white guy, I'm the main character, and Johnny Cage thinks he's the main character in his own little world, which again, kudos for a movie from '95 actually having an Asian lead.
To be fair, that's the good thing about this movie is that there's a lot of Asian representation and there's an Asian lead. But then we pointed out that, well, there was that weird scene with Johnny Cage, but then also that every black character that gets introduced just gets murdered.
Yeah, they're just introduced as like nameless meat in order for them to just like die so we can establish stakes.
Even fucking what's his name? Jax. It's like they just waste him here. Like they're just like nah, he's dead. Like they're just like he's not in this game, and you're in this movie, and you're kind of like. But why? And then they bring in another black character, which they just used for Goro to fucking murder. And then they're like, okay, Liu Kang will be the first character he'll fight. Somebody not from Mortal Kombat, who's another black character, which we will just murder. Like, and by Shang Tsung. It's like, yeah, I know you wanted to show that how he sucks the souls out of people, but you're kind of like, but why couldn't we use a Mortal Kombat character?
To be fair, Shang Tsung is the best thing about this film.
Oh, absolutely. No question. No fucking question.
I forget the actor's name, but he also played Heihachi when they did the Tekken movie, which is also bad.
Yeah, also
But I had no complaints about him in that movie, too.
And I was speaking of racism, what the fuck with Christopher Lambert as Lord Raiden? Like, I love Christopher Lambert. Like, he's a good actor, but like an obviously Asian character.
And he's definitely like
played up for laughs.
He's definitely playing it as like this type of movie is definitely his speed.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. He's like high fantasy, but it's kind of. They play Raiden up for laughs here, like, which I don't know what I like more, playing it up for laughs or the super serious asshole Raiden from fucking 2021, like, you're just like, can't we just have Scorpion's Revenge where he's a Raiden, you know, like just normal, like just an obviously Asian character, being an Asian character, and also being an all-powerful badass instead of being like, I'm Raiden, you know, like
I don't think so.
yeah, right. I don't think so.
I'll say this. I don't like it, but it's entertaining.
Yes.
And I've been quoting
That's what I'm
it. I've been
saying.
quoting it since I was a kid.
The
fate of the world will depend on you.
It's true though. It's like
He's in his
I
own.
can point it out, but
he's in
like,
his own little world in this movie, and you know what? Good for him. You could always. It's always better when you can tell the actor's just like, fuck it.
Fuck it.
I know exactly what type of movie I'm in.
What's the scenery right here?
Yeah.
Like, because that's exactly what he does. Every scene he's in, he's like, I'm gonna eat my lunch here. Like, just fucking goes to town.
Who needs craft services?
Who needs craft services? I ate the set. Like,
Yeah.
especially the scene where they're like, when he fucking stops them from fighting. You just quoted. It's just like,
I think so.
it's just like, you're like, oh, okay. Like, he never did this earlier, but that's okay. You're just like, but that's the thing is it's like, I make fun of it, I point it out, but then again, I kind of laughed at it, you know, like, and I kind of enjoy it, you know, like.
And there are things that like have influenced the games after this movie. Like I pointed out that like this movie basically reinvented Kano. Yeah. And to be honest, I don't think Kano's good in this movie.
No.
But this,
no, and
but
speaking
this
of
movie,
another character that they just waste in this movie, they introduce Kano. He's sort of a badass, but they just tell him, go get Sonya. And he goes get Sonya. And he pisses her off. And she comes to the tournament. And then basically, he's like, Shang Tsung is like, I have a gift for you, Sonya. And then he hands off Kano for her to fight. And it's literally a 30-second fight. Like, they punch each other a couple times. He breaks out a knife. She flips him over and snaps his neck.
I guess it's like
and you're kind of like,
I guess it's kind of like a Boba Fett thing where it's just like, yo, but he looked kind of cool.
But he looked kind of cool.
But he didn't do anything. Yeah, but he looked kind of cool. Because if you look at like Kano in the original games, he was just kind of like this, just another character where he kind of had like this monk-like design. Yeah. But then after that movie came out, every game after that pushed to like, nope, Australian dude with a beard and a cyborg guy.
And and that's the other thing about Kano in this one. It's definitely a super fake Australian accent. It's like really bad. Like, yeah, I think even if he is Australian, it sounds wrong.
I think the actor is a Kiwi. That's why.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's like it's off. You know, like it's just not there. You know, like oh yeah, it's Trevor Goddard. And yeah, he's Grapple from Pirates of the Caribbean. You're like, what the fuck? Oh yeah, he passed away in 2003. But yeah, no, born in England. So that's okay. So that's what was pissing me off about it. I could Belgium, all right. I could like tell that it was just not
a put on.
Yeah, it was a put on, and I mean that's even more of like the weird casting of this movie, you know, where they're just like
Robin Shu's okay.
Yeah, Robin Shu is okay. Is good, you know, like he's absolutely good. I don't like Bridget Wilson Sampras as Sonya.
I don't mind her. I've seen her in other things, but was the direction for her in this entire movie was to just scowl and snark at shit?
Yeah, that's it.
Because that's like her only character. It's just like grimace, frown, and roll your eyes at Johnny. That's what you do in this movie.
And yeah, they kind of waste her there too, other than she does some things. But then, speaking of wasting a character, Kitana being placed in here just to fight Liu Kang in a fake fight where she's like, use the essence of life to win your next battle, and then like that's it.
My mother actually knew that actress.
Really?
Growing up, because she like grew up around like Western Mass.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, she's beautiful. Like, to be fair, she stands out from the rest of the cast because she's gorgeous compared to the rest of the cast, and you're just kind of like.
She's also in one of the Bond movies.
Really? She's a Bond girl?
In the one of the Timothy Dalton ones.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. And I mean, we're speaking of racism, that every fucking Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Reptile are all just white dudes.
White dudes in ninja costumes.
And it's so apparent with
I know
fucking
the term
Sub-Zero.
Cultural appropriation, if it did exist, it definitely wasn't as commonplace.
No, it definitely wasn't.
But it's just so funny. And then even beyond like that,
yes,
it's also super annoying to be like, everyone knows Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Those are the two fucking flagship characters.
Look at the side. You know, the side of the cabinet's fucking Scorpion.
Yeah,
you know,
those are the two characters. So to make them just mindless drones under Shang Tsung's powers, fucking lame.
So lame. So lame. Especially because then you don't get a Scorpion versus Sub-Zero fight. They literally will not. The minute they introduce them, you're like, oh, they're working together. We're not getting a Scorpion versus Sub-Zero.
We can't just do Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Just like, why not?
And
the only one to really kind of do it is Scorpion's Revenge, because even 2021 is just like, yo, we got all this Sub-Zero action here, but we can't just do Scorpion. Make him a fucking summon.
Make him a fucking. We gotta make like Inferi or something.
We gotta make room for Cole. I wonder if Cole's gonna like show up in a future game.
God damn it! I hope not, dude. I really hope not.
I would rather have mocap.
Right? Like, oh, god damn it. But I do give credit to this movie for the special effects. Scorpion, when he takes his hood off, looks great. Sub-Zero, when he starts to freeze things, looks great.
Yeah.
It's
aged, but
obviously.
pretty good.
Goro is almost astounding, like that it's physical. He's really there. It's like, even though he's kind of janky at moments, and you can see the kind of like.
But I appreciate the effort that they made, especially since they had no other choice but to make it practical. But the fact that it was a full-on animatronic as opposed to like maybe just getting a big dude and just in a costume, over, giving him like a prosthetic arm, the fact that they went full animatronic is commendable.
It is commendable, but again, my main issue with this movie is that all the fights are just.
Yeah,
they're snore fest,
they're lame.
Dude. They're fucking lame.
It's weird because
it's half Paul W.S. Anderson's fault because he shoots it lame.
Yeah.
But then you actually look at the choreography and it's lame, dude.
Which is lame. Weird because like Lyndon, I think it's Ashenby, the guy who plays Johnny Cage, is an actual martial artist.
Yeah, and that's the thing is he's not a terrible Johnny Cage. Mm-hmm. Like he obviously fits the part, but he feels so low budget. Like it feels so just like.
We couldn't get Van Damme. Which
that's exactly what it feels like. We couldn't get Van Damme. So.
Which makes sense that they wanted Van Damme to begin with, because Johnny Cage, in his conceit for his entire like creation, was like homaging Van Damme. That's why he has like the split crotch punch and stuff like that. It's all homaging like Van Damme movies. Raiden himself, I'm pretty sure, is a specific homage to Big Trouble in Little China.
If they do the next Mortal Kombat movie and they introduce like old Johnny Cage and it's fucking Jean-Claude Van Damme, I would shit myself. I would love that. I would love that.
That would actually work.
But okay, so yeah, the fights are bad. But my other thing, is that my thing that actually I give this credit to is Johnny Cage works so well as a story point here that it's kind of wild that they decided to go with the original character in 2021, that they went with Cole, because Cage works as such a great, like, here, welcome to the Mortal Kombat universe.
Yeah, he works as a perfect audience surrogate.
And it's proven in the actual good movie in these three is Scorpion's Revenge. Scorpion's Revenge, which we'll come back to Mortal Kombat and we'll go through all these things. But like Scorpion's Revenge is actually good.
Yeah.
What the fuck,
dude? It is the best one of these three. It only exists because it was made to be a promotional tie-in for the 2021 film.
Right? You're just like, what?
Except it's actually better than the movie it was supposed to be a tie-in for.
Seriously. So we have Ethan Spalding coming in, who Ethan Spalding's known for many things, many animations, but what you know him from is Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
And he's done some of the Scooby-Doo movies, but they're newer ones.
And the film was animated by Studio Mir, who did Avatar:
Which,
The Last
to be
Airbender.
fair, he does I've been watching all the DC animated movie universe movies. He does some of my favorite here. He does Son of Batman. He does Assault on Arkham. He does Throne of Atlantis.
Yeah.
So,
Those
and he does
ones.
Freedom Fighters: The Ray, which I recently I watched it literally last night, and it's not good, but it's not his fault.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely he puts in some real great effort into
But
this.
you can tell that like it was made in like the same vein as like the DC animated movies,
Yes.
which makes sense. WB pretty much owns both. There's already crossover there with like Injustice and stuff like that. So why not throw some of that like animation and make it an animated Mortal Kombat movie instead?
So the number one thing this Mortal Kombat Scorpion's Legend has on every other Mortal Kombat thing, this is a cast, baby. This is a fucking cast. This is real. This is like, if they literally transferred these people to be the characters in the movie, I'd be like, thumbs up. Good job, everybody.
You did it.
You did it. Because, okay, you have Jennifer Carpenter, famous for Dexter, as Sonya Blade. You obviously know she's perfect. You know she's just like, she speaks words out of her mouth and you're like, Sonya Blade.
It's
you know,
interesting that like between this and Gotham by Gaslight, she's like moved into like tough girl roles.
Right? You're just like, all right. Which, I mean, she's tough in Dexter, to be fair. I love her in Dexter until the end. But like, she's great in Dexter. But the number one best casting in this movie is fucking Joel McHale as Johnny Cage. It's like one of those moments where you're just like, you know, like
in the same way I like brought that up for like Sanaa Lathan as fucking Catwoman and Harley Quinn. It's like, oh my god, if we actually had her play her when she was younger,
this would work. This would work.
We missed it. We missed out.
And it's kind of like that with Joel McHale. He's a little bit older now, so I don't know if he'd be able to do the action scenes. But he's so good. But here's the thing:
you brought up like Van Damme as an example.
Yeah,
I think
you could do an old Johnny Cage.
You can do an older Johnny Cage and just play,
who's like a washed out action star.
just like a has been. And
that's the thing.
That'll still play.
You could bring in Joel McHale as a washed up Johnny Cage, and I would buy it, like sell it. You know, I'd package that shit.
But then
like,
you also have stuff like Steve Bloom
as
Sub-Zero. And
you're just like,
you have like Robin Atkin Downs, and you have Patrick Sates
as
Scorpion.
Grey Griffin as Satoshi. Like, I love Grey Griffin. She's in so much fucking shit. She's all the time.
Yeah.
She's Selena Kyle in the Batman Arkham games. You know, like she.
But they finally just made a Mortal Kombat film where Scorpion's the main character.
Yep.
Which like
no, and like they're not messing around. Scorpion's the main fucking character. It's not like 2021 where they're like, Scorpion's the main character. Fuck you, it's Cole. And you're just like, wait, no, please. Like
go back.
It's like they just get so much right. And of course, we didn't say it. I said Goro looks good in Mortal Kombat 1995, but the best part about him
is that Kevin Michael Richardson voices him.
First off, Kevin Michael Richardson, other than Steve Bloom and who voices All Might?
It's Chris Sabat?
Chris Sabat are my favorite voice actors ever. No question in my mind. Steve Bloom, Chris Sabat, and fucking Kevin Michael Richardson are, other than Kevin Conroy. Sorry, I didn't mean... Sorry.
There's just so much love to go around.
So much love to go around. But yes, I mean, Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill. Sorry, I'm getting caught up in my voice actors. We'll do a whole episode about our favorite voice actors sometime.
Yeah, we definitely could.
Kevin Michael Richardson, though, he's just got the voice, you know? Like, he's good. And the minute he talks in 1995, you're like, Goro. You know, like, you're like, yep, that's him.
It's almost a shame because the dude has more range than just, like, big, intimidating dudes.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like he gets to, like, flex that enough. Yeah. He actually voices the Joker on The Batman, and he does a great job there. It's a very different type of Joker, but it's really good. It feels like its own take, and he actually won an Emmy for it.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's wild. I mean, he's just so prolific, dude. He's just so endless.
It satisfied me that we had Steve Bloom as Sub-Zero and Patrick Sates as Scorpion because those were the voices for the characters for a few games.
Yeah.
For a while. In fact, they only just recently changed them with 11. So the fact that they had them for the animated movie was very satisfying because we don't have Patrick Sates as Scorpion anymore. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those things that, like, this casting is so good. And then you combine it with an actual R rating. Like, this is so technically this is the first R-rated Mortal Kombat thing. Everything else is,
even if it is straight to video.
Even if it's straight to video, this is the first like of them. And you know what? It's badass. There's no other way to describe this movie other than this movie is badass.
Yes, it does suffer from like the same problems that all these movies do, is that no one just wants to throw enough money at these things. Yeah. But it has the advantage of being animation, so you can already get away with stuff that wouldn't limit you. Right. As opposed to live action. And you get someone like Studio Mir to do it, who's really good at working on a limited budget, like with Avatar, and you pretty much get something there.
Right? And so there's not only is this a great cast, great animation with good fight scenes. So it's already fucking pummeling 1995. Like, you know, like it's just like coming up to 1995 and being like, fatality, bitch. And it's number one, it's got a humor about itself. Like, and I think that's something that 2021 gets right. Like knowing that Mortal Kombat is silly, you know, like that, yes, we're a hard R game, but like, obviously, you just fought a fucking lizard thing, you know, like they.
But at the same time, and we'll get to it, 2021 also has its own problems about being afraid to not go far enough.
But like number one, right off the bat, they have the WB logo, and Porky Pig is like, well,
Daffy Duck.
Daffy Duck is welcoming you, and then all of a sudden, Scorpion comes out, and he's like, "Get over here!" and he brings them through the WB logo. And Ed Boon said that he wanted it to go through Daffy Duck's throat, catch him, and then rip him back.
I'm sure he did.
And WB was like, no, you can't kill Daffy Duck.
But I would have loved that.
Yeah,
I would
right?
have laughed
It would have
so
been
hard.
like, oh shit.
It's already funny enough that he just like fucking brings Daffy Duck to hell and kills him. Just like, oh my god, we just killed Daffy Duck.
We just killed Daffy Duck. And I feel like, so the number one thing this is, we already said, Ed Boon's a fucking genius. Ed Boon was brought on as a creative consultant in this movie. And it shows, you know, like this is one of those things that like it gets so much of the lore right. It doesn't change any characters. It just kind of does it.
Sticks to the Mortal Kombat 1 cast and the first tournament. It actually fucking does the tournament, but it also has the hindsight of lore from later on.
Yes.
Because the initial story about like Sub-Zero and Scorpion, rival clans and stuff like that. I'm responsible for the death of your children. You find out later was actually orchestrated by Quan Chi when you get to Mortal Kombat 4.
Yes.
So they're just like, well, we know that ahead of time, so let's just introduce Quan Chi here just to make the lore consistent, even though he doesn't show up until 4.
Exactly. And I really, I know the twist of Quan Chi, but I really love it here, you know? Like, because Scorpion's already exacted his revenge. Like, no spoilers. Sorry, spoilers, guys. But, like, he fucking has his whole fight with Sub-Zero where he thinks he's got his revenge on Sub-Zero. And he fucking sacrifices himself by throwing Sub-Zero on a spike and throwing himself on the spike to kill Sub-Zero. And you're just like, oh, shit. Like, oh, shit, they did it. Like, you know, like, they fucking killed each other. And then Quan Chi shows up and he's like, I actually killed your son and mother and wife and and fucking Scorpion just grabs the side of the spike and just starts lifting himself out, which he's already dead. So like you knew he was gonna fucking live through this.
He's already like
but it's just
sort of like a demon spirit of vengeance thing.
I feel like that just summarizes how badass this movie is. Is that he you have this awesome Sub-Zero Scorpion fight. It ends with them both dying. And then you get the twist, and then he just fucking rips himself out of a fucking spike. You're just like, hell yeah! And then what does he do after that? Still gets up and kicks everybody's ass. Like no fucking that's why this movie is the best of the Mortal Kombat movies, no question.
Again, even at itself, it's not great. It's not perfect.
No, and I'm not saying that.
But this is the closest one.
Yes.
And to be honest, I want a sequel to this more than I want a sequel to the 2021 film.
Yeah, it's kind of like, hey, HBO Max, make another one.
Yeah.
you're like, do more of that shit, you know? Like, cause
all right, it's time for the tournament from 2. Let's go.
Right? So what's great about this is that you already said it, is that one feels like, okay, there's just other realm in Earth. And this one's like, no. There's many realms, like we always say, and they're all here. Yeah. And they have their own sides. And it feels, so the reason why that works is like any anime tournament arc. You have to have multiple factions for it to work and multiple motivations behind the fighting for a tournament arc to work. Or it just feels like a longer fight. You know, like, which, like, yes, that's all a tournament is being like fight. But like you can really grab some emotional gravitas to these things by introducing these other stuff. And Scorpion's Revenge is really the only ones who do it, you know, like, because even 2021's like Other Realm and what's the other? They do say another realm.
They mention like Nether Realm. They actually show Outworld.
Yes,
a little bit of it. Apparently, it's just a big desert. But you know, ain't much money in that movie.
Ain't much much money here. It's just one of those things that I was so surprised with how good this was. You know, like I really, my only thing to say is it's on HBO Max. Fucking watch it right now.
Imagine being outclassed by a straight-to-video animated film that you only made to tie into your actual project.
And we're not saying it just outclassed 1995. It outclasses 2021.
Exactly.
Like, no question outclasses it. It's badass. The fights are good. Even Johnny Cage has this great scene where a temple is falling over after he's fought. Is it Noob? Who does he fight there? He fights somebody.
Couldn't be Noob because Noob is Sub-Zero.
Right. Sorry. He fights somebody who's actually a Mortal Kombat character. You know, like that's the other thing they get so right about this movie is and 2021. I give it the credit is that 1995 is constantly being like, a no-name character, kill him. You know, like a no-name character, kill him instead.
And sure, that was early days back with like only the first 2 games by the time that movie was made, but you still had more to choose from beyond just that. So it is kind of annoying.
It's annoying.
I also want to put this as an aside because I'm going to forget to bring it up later. The 95 film did not give us the Mortal Kombat theme.
No, yes, you wanted to bring that up.
Which, because I find that a lot of people who love this movie also bring that up. Just like, how can you do it? It gave us the Kano we know. Shang Tsung is great. It also gave us the Mortal Kombat theme. No, it didn't. The Mortal Kombat theme came from Mortal Kombat, the album, which was a musical album that they used as a promotional material for the home release of the original game.
Yes, which, okay.
It's called Techno Syndrome.
Techno Syndrome. To be fair, 1995... has the best soundtrack of all of these ones. It not only uses that theme well, which, you know, it didn't invent it, but it uses it well. It also adds a couple other EDM tracks that make these really boring fights actually kind of exciting. You know, like it's the one thing that it's the reason why you say don't make fun of people who like Mortal Kombat, because really there is some good bits to hear that I can see why your nostalgia is so high.
It's just weird that there's like the intent behind the movie was to take what they go, and you can look at like behind the scenes videos for like the making of the 95 film, where they're just like, well, the problem with like old martial arts films is that they're never like polished and they never have like as much money thrown on it, so we wanted to make sort of like a Hollywood martial arts film and like really give it that like American style. And you're just like, I see what you're getting at.
Yeah, see what you're saying.
But all the fights that you made are so much worse.
Right? Like, not like... Even the ones that are reminiscent or homaging Bruce Lee fights, they come across as bad.
So you're not going to fucking put that down, but then do a worse version of it yourself.
Exactly. You're just like... And then you can see that they brought in real martial artists here, but they like really held them back.
But they didn't know how to choreograph or film it.
Right? It's weird, dude. It's one of those things where you're like, there's
a lot of shots. There's a lot of shots, and you brought up like everything being filmed in wide.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like the way it's edited comes off as just like, okay, guys, do the fight. Just do endless takes of like the choreographed fight, and we'll get
a bunch of different shots,
in between, as opposed to like thinking of like, how do we choreograph it? How do we do this piece by piece to make this?
It almost feels like Paul W.S. Anderson didn't storyboard this movie. You know, like he didn't fucking go.
We don't need it. We got Mortal Kombat.
We got Mortal Kombat, and we got people who can fight. And you're just like, wait, like you're just like, wait a minute, and I think it shows. You know, it's just not well thought out, you know, like
it's just not.
But okay, so the other thing that you have to point out when you talk about Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge, when we talked about Mortal Kombat 9 already, is they bring up the X-rays. They do the X-rays in this movie often, which is arguably the coolest bit.
It was one of the like best additions to the franchise when 9 came out.
Yeah.
Because it's that like, it's like a little mini fatality that you can have to just like hold you over in the middle of the fight.
It's one of the things I give credit to the game designers is that they were like, so you get these dopamine pumps for doing fatalities. Like that's their favorite bit. How can I give you that dopamine dump in the middle of your fight?
But something that doesn't overshadow the fatality or like ruin it
or ruin
it.
your rhythm. You know, like that's another thing is a lot of games put in these like little cut-in things and it like can ruin your rhythm of fighting, you know, like, and Mortal Kombat 9 does a good job of putting those in at the end of a good combo or like purposely putting it in at a certain move, you know, like it's definitely well done in that it doesn't really too much block you from continuing to do what you want to do, you know, like and really I like this movie a lot. Scorpion's Revenge, I really, you know, I'm watching all the DC animated movie universe and there's some disappointments in there, and to see sort of the same animation applied somewhere else and it does a good job, you're kind of like, hey, thumbs up, baby. All right. Is it time for Mortal Kombat 2021?
Let's talk about 2021.
2021. So I mean, this came out. By the time this episode is out, you got a week to watch this on HBO Max before you have to buy it somewhere or something like that. So go watch it on HBO Max. Come back and we're gonna talk about it. So there's a lot of things to like here. Is basically my first, I want to say right off the bat, there's a lot to like. When people were coming on Facebook and saying like, oh man, Mortal Kombat was so good, so badass, I can't wait for more.
History repeats itself.
I was like, what, really? And then we went and watched it and I was like, okay, I see why these plebes, no, I'm just kidding. If you liked it, you're fine.
I'm about 60% kidding.
60% kidding. Is that like, yes, it finally does have the blood and the guts and the fatality and like I said earlier when I was like, if you combine these movies, they could all work as one thing if it all worked. Is that even though the costumes get it right in the first one, they look cheap, they look 90s, you know, like they don't really sell it. The costumes look so natural here, you know, like everybody in Mortal Kombat looks like they fit in, you know, like in Mortal Kombat 2021, other than Cole, of course, because fuck Cole, like
fuck him,
and I mean that, I mean that, I mean it. He ruins this movie. I literally think this movie would be 10 times better if he wasn't in it. Like, he literally ruins this movie. I hate to say that because I hate sounding like a whiny like fanboy, but he ruins the movie.
There's absolutely there's no reason for you to make an original character when there's so much to choose from.
No.
I get that you didn't want to make Liu the main character again because the first movie already did that in 95, so you wanted to go something different. You could have just shifted the focus to Johnny. Instead, you went for an original character who's a descendant of Scorpion. Like, whose fan fiction made it into the script?
Exactly. That's what it feels like. So
it's such like a easy like self-inserts. It's so dumb.
And my thing about Cole is that they're kind of implying the whole movie that he is not his original character. He's going to be Scorpion if like he lets Scorpion into his body, is what they seem to be alluding to at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, like at the beginning you're thinking like, okay, Scorpion's stuck in hell because he's dead, but he could like, you know, take over his descendant's body. And like, even though that's stupid, I was gonna let it go. You know, like I was like
He-Man shit or
right,
something.
yeah, sort of. Yeah. Kind of like Shazam or He-Man, you know, like, which I'm like, that's okay. You know, it's stupid because you don't need this isekai bullshit, but you could, you know, that's fine. This is worse. Being like, no, he's his own character with plot armor, and we still have Scorpion, but now they work together.
Now they work together because I had his summon materia in my pocket.
Like, seriously, so angry, so fucking, because everything else about Scorpion in this movie, fuck yeah, bro.
Yeah,
like,
it works.
So what they did that they were smart about was before the movie came out, they dropped the first 6 minutes, which is just the Sub-Zero Hanzo scene at the beginning, which is, I think, is genius because they probably pitched this entire movie with that fucking scene because that scene's great. Even though I think it's really dumb. Like, fucking Sub-Zero comes up, says a whole thing in fucking Japanese, and all Hanzo says back to him is, I don't know what you're saying. You're just like, you're like, he doesn't like.
But I'm glad they went like authentic, like Chinese versus Japanese culture, and they actually spoke in the languages the entire time, aside from the get.
But then it's revealed that Sub-Zero knows Chinese in that same scene, so he just said that whole Japanese thing just to fuck with him, you know, like just to be like, you won't understand what I'm saying to you, like. And Hanzo's sitting there like, is he gonna stop monologuing in a language I don't fucking know?
He also talks to Cole in Japanese as if Cole understands.
Right? And you're just like, wait, what? Like, you know other languages. I saw you do it. Like, I saw you fucking do it. It's weird. It's one of those weird moments that you're just like, but why?
All right. As far as like Scorpion himself is concerned, even though it's stupid that he's like limited to a fucking RPG summon.
Yeah. It's seriously Final Fantasy shit.
Yeah, it's so weird.
It's so weird.
But beyond that, like, the costume is good. He has a great actor attached to him. Like, Hiroyuki Sanada is a much bigger actor in Japan. He's like an A-lister over there.
He's a big boy.
And you've probably seen him in other stuff. He's in the original Japanese version of The Ring, if you've ever seen that.
And of course, you know him from Wolverine.
Yeah, he's in the Wolverine.
But really,
he's
111 projects for this guy. This guy ain't a little fish, you know. Like, this guy's huge.
And he's in Endgame.
And he's in Westworld.
He was supposed to be in John Wick 3. He was supposed to be. He was supposed to be that like Asian antagonist in John Wick 3. That was supposed to be his part.
Oh, really?
But he said no because he wanted to do that bit part in Endgame instead.
Oh, really? Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like, you know, like you're like, yep.
I don't feel like we talk about how cool Hawkeye is in Endgame. I kind of love the like Ronin Hawkeye shit. I wish we had more of it.
I mean, it feels like a stretch. Like, he's just like, I lost my family and now I'm gonna go kick some Yakuza ass. But you're just like,
but
whatever,
to be fair, there's like 5 years in between that we have not seen. I'm sure that there's a whole movie there you could have had.
Wait, is he in Speed Racer too? Oh yeah, he is in Speed Racer. Hell yeah, bro.
Extra points.
Extra points, bro. But this is one of those things that, like, yes, the costumes are fantastic. And it keeps going, too. You see, first time you see Kano, you're like, oh, he doesn't have the eye yet, but that's Kano.
But
you know,
that's
like,
Kano.
And, to be fair, okay, I was saying, like, the cast was bad in 1995. The cast is actually quite good here. But Kano is the absolute fucking carry for this movie.
Yes.
Like, you know, like hard carry.
Him and Sub-Zero specifically are just like, they're
just like,
their backs
fucking hurting from holding this movie up. Because really though, he's the best part.
And to be fair, I was always a Sub-Zero
fan.
A Sub-Zero like head growing up. So the fact that there's like so much Sub-Zero shit in this and he's just like the biggest heavy in this makes me very happy.
Yes.
And the fact that like the effects are super hit and miss in this movie.
Yes.
But they got ice effects for days in this film. And
but they do a good job with the close effects. The one effect that I absolutely hate in this movie is
Rain.
Yes, is Sub-Zero shows up to chase down Lewis Cole, and Jack shows up and he's like, get in the car. And then they get in the car, and then Sub-Zero is supposedly throwing ice spikes at them. But instead, it literally looks like somebody was throwing snowballs continuously at the car. And it like looks like it, you know? Like it's not even it's upsetting because it looks bad, but it's also like, why is Sub-Zero not using icicles or something? You know, like why is he using snow?
Which is weird because that's like the only one that like misses for me.
It really does. Everything else looks really good.
Like freezing the gunshot, great. The ice backgrounds, great. Ice
Ripping
clone,
off,
great. The sword,
Jack's arms.
Yeah, the swords, great.
Swords.
The fucking
the swords could have looked bad.
The blood icicle.
And coming out of his hand.
Yeah.
You know, like, and how menacing it is that he's gonna fucking shove it into your face constantly. You're just like, fuck yeah, Sub-Zero. Hell yeah.
As far as that is concerned, with like the gore and stuff, they definitely like nailed that because it's something we should have had to begin with.
Right.
But this movie, so on that point, sure. If you guys are familiar with Jeremy Johns, like a movie reviewer on YouTube, he hates to call himself a critic, so I'll just refer to him as a reviewer. He brings up something interesting in his review that I think is worth mentioning, where he says there are different types of Mortal Kombat fans, and it's based on a specific ratio. It's lore versus gore. Yes. There are Mortal Kombat fans who are only there for the gore stuff. If you deliver on the gore, then that's all they came for.
Yeah.
And then there are people who actually like the story and the lore and stuff like that. For me, I sort of lean somewhere in the middle where I lean just like maybe like 60 gore, 40 lore.
Yeah.
We're like, the lore is ridiculous anyway.
The lore is ridiculous.
So as long as you give me some spectacle, I'm more or less satisfied.
Yeah.
But you should
give
at
me
least
some emotional fucking stakes.
But you should at least have stakes and at least have like a consistent foundation. And that's where we run into like, where it gets like messy for the 2021 film.
It really does. And okay, so I was talking about wasted characters in 1995. Fucking 2021 just loves killing people off. Just loves like being like, nope, they're not gonna be in the fucking sequel. They're dead. You know, like,
to be fair, it's a double-edged sword when you do that, because one,
you want to kill people.
You want to kill people, and you don't want it to just be like nameless goons like in '95.
No, like, as I was complaining. Yeah,
and
like,
yeah, if you're gonna have the stakes be like these characters can die, you're gonna lose favorites.
Yeah,
which is good because that's gonna help with the stakes.
But it's one of those things that, yes, guys, we already said spoilers. But why the fuck would you kill Kano? Why the fuck would you kill Kano?
And I feel like this wouldn't be such a problem if we actually did the tournament. But we don't. This is pre-tournament.
No, and I think that's another reason why this movie doesn't go far enough. Is they don't do the tournament. They just don't. They do this whole, like, I'm going to kill him before we start the tournament type of thing. And it feels very, like, Power Rangers, where it's just like, oh, yeah, there's going to be this big event, but we're not even going to do that because we're going to do all this build up to the event instead, you know, instead of doing the actual thing, you know? Like, it just feels... Yeah, again, I'll say it Power Rangey, you know, like, it just doesn't work, you know, like, and you're just
and
like,
it's
what?
funny that the direct comparison is Scorpion's Revenge, because Shang Tsung's also doing shady shit to try and, like, make the tournament go his way.
Yeah.
But it's so much more organic that way,
and
where there's, like, that hard rules.
We start the Mortal Kombat, you know, like, that's the problem here, is that every one of these fights is kind of a battle royale. Like, I do say that the actual fights in this movie are good. Like, when we're talking about it, I'm talking the brawl in the training area when they actually do when what's his name fucking slices is it Bihan who slices the winged lady in half. That's the guy with the hat.
Kung Lao.
Sorry. Which is another one of my favorite Mortal Kombat games. I forgot to bring it up. Is Shaolin Monks. Another game I played way too much of and probably shouldn't have. You know, like, it was just one of those things that I owned and I was kind of like, sick, bruh. Like, you know, like, let's keep going on this. And me, you know, it's a co-op game, so me and my brother were all about it. You know, like, I mean, that's kind of one of the main reasons why me and my brother love Mortal Kombat in general, is that it is a two-player thing. You know, like, this is a great game to play together. You know, like. But okay, so let's get into that, like, what characters they probably shouldn't have fucking killed here. We already said it, Kano. Goro, though, is my biggest fucking complaint here, is that they bring in Goro, he looks great, he fucking hands Cole his ass, and then Cole gets his plot armor and then cuts him up, which I do like the kill on Goro. I think the fight with Goro is actually good. That's the thing is, I have a problem with Cole, but Cole's fights are pretty good, you know? Like, even though they end like bullshit, they anime end, you know? Like, they're like, I of course beat you.
That and Cole's power is dumb.
But it looks the Goro fight, it looks cool, at least, you know, like, where it's like he takes the hit and then he slices him open, you know, like, you're like, okay.
And sure, it's cool that we did it and we sort of went there, but what the fuck are we killing Goro and we haven't even gotten to the tournament yet?
And to be fair, I really hope it's not Prince Goro. It might just be a Goro.
Either that, or they're just going to use the excuse, because you do have that bit at the end where Shang Tsung's like, death is just another portal. And they're just like, okay, so maybe we'll leave that open to be like, whatever, I'll just fucking go to hell and bring him back.
And I feel like they're going to do that with
they'll definitely
Kang Lao.
They'll definitely do it with Sub-Zero.
No question. No question.
Plus, I think he's even like contracted for like 5 movies, assuming they even get another one.
So, but the thing I love about this movie, that I absolutely give it credit for, and it finally feels like a Mortal Kombat thing, is that every human is fighting a non-human, you know, like, other than the Kano fight, which already he's a cyborg, is that the humans...
But he's not in this.
But he's not in this, which we'll talk about Arcana in a second, is that, like, at least it's always a monster that they are fighting, which you know, as a kaiju fan, as a monster fan, yes, please, you know, like, please give me that shit. And that's why I say the Goro fight's good, the fight in the training area is good, and I already said the setting sucks for that last fight, but it is a badass fight, you know, like, I hate that setting because you're just like, oh yes, of course, our final setting, let's make it dark as fuck, you know, like
it's a warehouse covered in ice, and that's sort of just the indication of just none of these movies ever have like that much money thrown at them.
But to be fair, there's the whole you have freezed out gym is cool looking.
It's cool looking. Like,
it is weird,
and you do get like the obligatory bridge with like the spikes at the bottom, which annoys me that the kill wasn't falling on the spikes because you teased me with it.
Right? You're like it literally is you showed the gun and you didn't use the gun in the third act. Are you fucking with me?
But then you also have shit like, really? We had the fucking Kano and Sonya fight in a fucking trailer. We had the fucking Goro and Cole fight in a fucking barn.
Right? It's why I say if we combined all these movies, it could work, because the sets in 1995 make you appreciate that they just didn't do it in 2021. Yeah. Like they like the only like real Mortal Kombat sets they do is the training area and that's pretty much it.
And the bridge.
Like, because otherwise...
Because you see Outworld, but we don't get to fight there.
You do have there is a stage where I know you fight in Raiden's temple. Like, so, and that's where most of this takes place.
There's also a pretty decent stage you have when Liu Kang is fighting Cabal.
Yes. But it's one of those things that you're just... Which, them doing Cabal so perfect here, you're just like... That's... To be fair, yeah, Cabal's perfect. Yeah. So you're just like, I love how he just read Kano like a book too. He's like, I'll show up and just fucking fuck with him and he'll be on our side.
He's about to get his soul sucked. Kano's a piece of shit. You're gonna love him.
And I mean, you already knew he was gonna be a bad guy, so it's like, you know, I'm glad they didn't like fucking pad foot around it or anything, or that he like regretted anything. It was just totally like, Kano's gonna fucking kill you.
And you get hints at like other characters, like you get like a nod. You see like a Shao Kahn statue and stuff like that. There's even a painting in like the Raiden temple that I'm not sure who it's supposed to be, but it almost looks like Kotal Khan.
Yeah,
which would be weird to me if you're like, Kotal Khan, that's fucking 11. That's real recent,
right? I saw that. And I was like, Kotal Khan. Like, I was like, it's kind of one of those moments where you're just like, oh shit, guys. Like, are you gonna do Kotal Khan? And then they're like, no.
A little soon for that.
No. Next movie.
We haven't even gotten to Shao Kahn yet. Relax.
I mean, I already brought it up. Casting wise, it is pretty fantastic. Shao Tsung, why can't I say his name?
Shang Tsung.
Shang Tsung, is Chin Han, which I love him. I think Han is great. Of course, he's Lao in The Dark Knight, which is where we know him from mostly. But he's also in Marco Polo, and
he's in Contagion.
And Contagion. Like, the guy's good, and he might not be as good as 1995. But that's hard.
I think that's mostly a case of tone.
Yes, absolutely.
Because Shang Tsung in the 95 film is a fucking ham and he just revels in it and it's great.
Yeah.
Your soul is mine. You will be next. Finish him. The amount of times I've also said, you disappoint me. Not very wise. Just to like fuck with people. Is fun, whereas Shang Tsung is played a lot straighter here. But to be honest, it's also a little more like game accurate and actually gives him more of a like intimidating presence, even if he's not as fun.
And he might not be in the campy sorcerer outfit, but he's still bringing the sorcerer vibes. You know,
and to be fair, neither was 95. In 95, you had this like 90s ass leather jacket.
I more mean Scorpion's Revenge gets it right.
Yeah,
Scorpion's Revenge, like
the old wizard.
Yeah, you're like shit. You know, like. That's him, you know, like, you're like, look at him right there, you know, like, you're like, yeah, there he is. My one casting problem with this movie, because otherwise, I'm sort of fine with it, other than Louis Cole. Like, I mean, Cole Young, it's just, and I mean, the actor's good. Louis Tan, he's good, you know? Like, he's not...
He's fine. I don't blame the actor.
No, I don't
like,
blame the actor. Like, I really don't.
Most of the time, you don't blame the actor.
Yeah.
There's
guys,
a lot of factors.
Guys, if you ever have to, like, if you take anything from our show, do not blame the actors for bad lines. I mean, yes, there is some bad deliveries, but overall,
and to be honest, there are genuinely bad actors who are popular.
Yes. I mean, yeah.
That is a thing.
That is a thing.
But hey, they're doing a job. They delivered that line the way the director said it was fine. It was the take they decided to use. There are a number of factors.
They're like, okay. But it's really I think the worst person in this is Lord Raiden. And it's not his fault.
Yeah.
It's not, because again, it's another great actor.
It's the way Raiden is characterized is super weird.
Yeah,
he's
an asshole. He kind of sends Lewis Cole away, sends Sonya Blade away.
He wanted to lean towards like, I am a literal elder god and I cannot be involved other than in this very specific capacity and can't interfere. But the rules are so unclear that it just makes him come off like he's just being callous.
Yeah. And it's funny because this is the same actor who plays the Warriors 3 guy from Thor Ragnarok. I forget the character's name.
I know you're talking about.
You know, look at our shirts, guys. We don't know
too
much about Marvel.
You want to talk about the wasted potential? The Thor movies really fucking squandered the Warriors 3 and Sif. Come on now.
Yeah, seriously. You're just like, if you're going to be mad about something.
I want to talk about wasted potential. I could go on for a day about the fucking Thor movies.
Now... and I think otherwise the cast is great. Even McCade Brooks as Jax is quite good.
I really like the actress for Sonya in this one.
Yeah, exactly. Jessica McName. What else is she in? Oh, she's in the Meg. I forgot. She's one of the.
I think she's Australian.
I think she's good, you know, like, I think she's doing some weird movies, you know, like, she's trying to break in, you know, like, it's one of those things where somebody's gonna be like, give her something big.
She's hungry.
Yeah, right, yeah. And it shows, and I think that she's good as Sonya Blade, and it's gonna go even further.
Yeah, the characterization is on point. She also looks like sort of a middle ground of, like, early game Sonya and later game Sonya. Like, the characterization is right.
Yeah, and how cool Sonya is just makes Lewis. I mean, not Lewis.
Cole.
Cole. Just why do I keep saying Lewis Cole?
Because he's Lewis his real name. Yeah.
Cole Young, just so lame. You know, like
Cole Young. Who the fuck came up with that name? Too?
Right.
That's such a generic.
And that
name.
He has. He looks very young here, and he has a fucking 14-year-old daughter.
That weirded me out. When that scene came up, I thought that was supposed to be his little sister. Like, he lived with, like, his little sister and his girlfriend. Like, probably something happened to their parents, and he, like, raised his sibling. That's something that happens.
Which would be commendable, you know? Like,
but he looks so young that when they did establish that, like, no, that's actually his daughter. Like, what?
Yeah, you're like, what?
When what? He was 12?
And I could go on about Cole here, but like, the only thing his daughter brings to the story is use the uppercut, Dad, and then he does on Goro, and that's it, you know, like, and then he uses the uppercut again on Sub-Zero, and you're kind of just like, okay, so the uppercut is a really special move for Cole. Good for him. Like, it's just like,
you gotta give him some slack. All he has is this stupid looking armor, and he has Tonfa.
No, it's just,
if you were gonna make
it makes me angry because Johnny Cage would have perfectly fit in here. He would have just perfectly slotted in.
That, and if you were going to make an original character, could you at least be like, how about we bring John Tobias and Ed Boon on to help us create an original character so we can actually, like, have something to chew on. Right. But here, it's just clear there's just like, we're making an original character, whatever. And it just doesn't really fit with Mortal Kombat lore. There's nothing, there's no, like, spark or pizzazz to be like, this is what this character brings to the table. This feels like a character who could come straight out of the game. It's just like, no. It's just this dude. It's just a generic dude.
Exactly. Like, we talked about it earlier, that Mortal Kombat feels like they reached into the toy chest and they took everything out. Cole is just a dude, you know, like, and then he gets fucking, what is his abilities? Just armor and then
Tonfa,
which, like, yes, Tonfa, cool. But also, what? You know, like, the only person who should have a tonfa is fucking Baraka. And stop fucking around.
And those are natural.
Yeah, those are natural. Also, the other reason why I like Scorpion's Revenge, they actually had Baraka in it. Like, fuck. Sorry, my favorite. I forgot to say it earlier. You said Sub-Zero is your favorite character in Mortal Kombat. Baraka, no fucking contest, is my favorite character in Mortal Kombat. So that he's in only one of these movies made me fucking livid. You know, like, you're just like, oh, cool, just the coolest fucking character around. And they just go, no.
He's in Annihilation, but he looks like shit.
Oh, God, I don't want to watch Annihilation, bro. Like, I was going to try to be, like, thorough here, and then I just looked at it, and I was like, I don't want to hurt myself like that.
You know, it's even the people who love that first movie hate Annihilation, so you know it's
gonna
be even
worse.
You
know it's bad.
Yeah.
It's just like one of those things that you're just like.
But I feel like it's a good segue while we're talking about the plot armor that we might as well just get into Arcana, because I got some shit to say about Arcana.
Okay, so they explain in this movie that not only are you born or get the mark on you, if you kill a combatant, you get the Mortal Kombat arc, but once you get your tattoo or birthmark or whatever the fuck, because it turns out that Cole is the only one born with the mark.
Because he's a descendant of Scorpion.
Of course. Is that you get Arcana. So this is how, out of the blue, they try to explain why everybody's got weird abilities. Instead of just being like, oh, Raiden's magic, you guys can be magic too. They just go, no. You get Arcana.
It's all tied to Arcana, which is like this weird sort of like anime key equivalent.
It's fucking Metachlorians again, bro. It's fucking Metachlorians again. Because it
works for certain properties, but the reason why it's weird here is because we've talked about it before. Mortal Kombat is like a bunch of toys. Just a bunch of different types of toys smashed together. So yeah, you can have a cyborg here, and a lightning god here, and a ninja here. Who gives a
reptile
fuck?
There, like, who cares?
And that also speaks to like how powerful these characters are and like what they're up against. To be like, I'm Sonya Blade. I'm just a spec ops girl.
Right.
That's it. That's all I have. I'm gonna fight fucking
I have my
demons.
Weapons. That's it. And like, that's the cool thing about Sonya Blade, you know? Like, and that's the cool thing about Johnny Cage is they're just normal.
They're just normal people. But the fact that like we have to use them because someone has to defend Earthrealm. But the fact that they can go toe-to-toe with these beings and they don't have, like, magical mystic powers like that works. But the fact that they decided to explain everything through Arcana is the thing where they wanted to keep everything, like, leveled and even, but it just ends up making things more confusing because you have the contradiction of, like, well, it's oddly specific to go from, like, my Arcana, I can shoot fireballs with Liu Kang. You're like, okay, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
But then you're like,
Arcana, I can shoot lasers out of my eyeball.
You're like, okay.
And
we're starting to lose it here. And then you get to like Kung Lao, which is like, so I guess his Arcana is that he can throw his hat really good. So you're like, what the hell are we doing here?
Yeah, what is like exactly. Why try to explain the magic if it's so ridiculous in the first place?
Sure. Sonya has her purple rings. In the games, you could have just explained that that's like a fucking bracelet or something, technology. Why is there a magical explanation for Jax's prosthetic arms?
Yeah, like, I do like the dramatic moment of, you know, he loses the arms, they try to give him mechanical arms, and they're, of course, weak and small, and I like that dramaticness of, like, when his friends needed him, he grew stronger arms. Like, I like that emotional through instead of, oh man, they took off my arms, give me mechanical arms, now I'm gonna kick your ass. You know, like, I do like that, like, oh, he's still beat down, but now because of this, he can raise up.
But it just gives me more questions.
Yes,
just like through the power of magic, my robotic arms became big, swole, mechanical arms because magic instead of sci-fi, it's really dumb and confusing. And I know that you wanted to streamline it, but you ended up just making it worse.
And, yeah, especially because, okay, you explained that if you beat somebody in the Mortal Kombat, you get their tattoo. You know, like, you get their... And so Jax is beaten. He shouldn't have a tattoo anymore. Like, they basically established that, like, they kill Kano, you know, like, and sure, Jackson's still alive, but he lost.
Yeah,
you know,
I guess the kill is the only thing that, like, really counts for you to get it.
That kind of makes sense, but also stupid.
And plus, I imagine Sub-Zero already has one, so it's not like he
can now he's doubled up.
So make a nice addition to my collection.
Yes, right? But it's kind of one of those things that, like, what does Dan Slott say? What do they call it when it's multiple things that you have to worry about? Like, it's disbeliefs. Like, you can suspend disbelief for mojo. That's what he says. Dan Slott calls it mojo. When you have, okay, so Spider-Man has a lot of mojo. He's a smart scientist kid.
Yeah.
He's also got spider powers. But then you get confusing with, but his parents are clones and he might be a clone, and like it starts to add too much.
His parents
to
were
the
fucking shield agents or something, etc.
It starts to add too much to the mojo, as Dan Slott says. But as I say, it's just kind of like
I get what you mean.
It's the thing, and that's the problem here, is that you already had this like wacky universe, and then you're trying to add a mojo to it. You're trying to be like, but this is the reason why we have this magic, and it just over-explains it.
That first 95 film already had a lot of like juxtapositions of like weird and differing types of characters, like a dude with a cyborg guy, like a straight up like reptilian with camouflage, and just normal people. And no one really batted an eye at that in 95, so why would you think people would be confused if you didn't streamline it here?
And even here, before they even explain the Arcana, they're just like, there's a lizard dude that you guys both have to take down. And they just kind of like gloss over it. Yeah. And you're kind of just like, cool, now just keep going. And then they introduce the Arcana, just to have that moment where Kano learns his Arcana and Cole learns his Arcana.
You could have just kept it just like, no, everyone has their own special abilities. Yeah, this dude has prosthetic arms. You even had like maybe an out of just like, we had to get these arms from like another realm.
Yes.
And they're specifically tied to like your confidence and like where your soul is at. You could have even had that excuse to be like, this is why skinny skeletal arms
before. I've seen that fucking anime.
Grow into this. But to have it all streamlined to be Arcana, it just raises so many questions. And it also brings up questions for the sequels. Like, you're just like, Kano addresses it in a joke, but just because you lampshade the problem doesn't mean it's any better.
It's true, though. It's like, Kano tries to be like, here's the joke, and then everyone's supposed to be like, but it's fine now. And you're like, it's not fine. It's kind of like Metachlorians. What the fuck? You know, like, because, I mean, Metachlorians are obviously more offensive, because obviously everyone thought they could be a Jedi, and then George Lucas goes, not if you're born with it.
It ties into like that weird like eugenics thing we have when it comes to fantasy,
right? And at least with Arcana, it's you have to beat the person, like that feels very Mortal Kombat-ish, that you have to kill the person to get their Arcana. Like that, as stupid as the Arcana is, at least that there's like some Deus Ex Machina there, some ghost in the machine.
But also, the idea of like the tattoo of like the chosen warriors is also kind of annoying, because it just works better that these people who are just willing to put their lives on the line are just going to participate in the tournament.
Especially, it brings up even more that we had already talked about Raiden sending Sonya away, but even it's so much, it almost feels weirder, like that he's like, we don't have enough warriors, and then he's like, get this fucking woman out of here, and you're just like, what the fuck, Raiden? You're just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And
even Cole's just like, we wouldn't have gotten here without her.
Yeah.
Just like, but she's not chosen. She's not a champion.
And it's weird. And I feel like it's weird that they give Sonya the not champion status.
Yeah.
Like, you could have gone with Kano not champion status and he kills one of the guys, or Luke, or like Cole,
or honestly,
or somebody else.
Just would have been more organic without the tattoo, without the Arcana, to just be like, no, you guys aren't champions because you don't have mystical powers, and that's the thing.
Yes.
To be like, no, we can prove ourselves without all that shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like where it's like, oh yes, you have Liu Kang and Kung Lao, and they have magical powers, and you could have just been like, oh, you guys don't have magical powers. You can't compete with these guys. And they're like, yeah, we can. Like...
And then that plays to the audience surrogate thing.
Which you could have just had Johnny Cage again.
There's so many like little things you could have changed to this to just make it that much better. That's the annoying thing.
And you feel
like it's like right there. It's like right there.
It's right there.
And I get it's different when you're in the context, when you're like in the moment. It's always different when you can like take a step back or lean to it when you're looking from the outside.
Yeah.
But still, it just feels like it's just right there.
And I think that's what really my review of this Mortal Kombat movie, and I think that's why so many people were swayed by it and being like, wow, it's good, is that inside this movie, is a good Mortal Kombat movie.
It's just buried under a couple layers of bullshit.
It's like, and to be fair, it's only a couple layers of bullshit, but it's
they're thin layers, but they're layers nonetheless.
Layers, and it makes this not a good video game movie. You know, like this takes it from being like, hey, we're almost there, to being like, oof.
And sure, I mean, but you know, we have to wait for the second one. We have to set this one up. I'm starting to get real fucking sick of this.
Yeah,
this ain't bullshit. Very good. But, you know, give way for the sequel. That's the
same thing they said for Sonic, though. That's the same thing they said for Sonic.
Same thing we did with The Amazing Spider-Man as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And that one hurt more because that one did have a lot of potential, and then we just fucking... And then when you do that, it retroactively makes the other one feel worse.
Yes, it's kind
of... Because all that stuff that they left hanging that didn't get to pay off, that you were willing to give them slack on, is now paid off badly. Yeah. So now it makes the first one feel like a waste of time, too.
We've talked about it many times when we talk about the sequel series of Star Wars, is that Force Awakens asks a lot of questions. Last Jedi is actually solid and good and answers some questions, but also leaves enough for a sequel, you know, like...
also is willing to have stakes and change the status quo as like a middle chapter.
Exactly, but then what it's for. And then Rise of Skywalker is the big motherfucking middle finger to you. As a fan, it's the biggest fucking, like, it's just I don't give a shit
fear.
About you.
It's
like,
just fear. We're gonna be talking about Rise of Skywalker for years as like an example of like corporate fear of its audience and like kowtowing to an annoying fan base.
Yeah, and like yes, we have the Zack Snyder Justice League as a great example.
Yeah, that's another example too.
Of like the fans coming out rabid and it ends in kind of a positive note, you know, like you have I feel like we have a couple examples of this. You have Justice League where the fans fucking flipped out and we got the actual Zack Snyder cut, and then you have Sonic where people literally flipped out enough that they changed the animation, you know, like for a movie that looked almost done, you know.
Didn't help the animation studio from going under.
No, they're gone, and I feel like
that crunch time.
Yeah, that's just morally bankrupt, is that they made these people fucking crunch thinking that, you know, if we finish Sonic, at least they'll sign us for Sonic 2 and then we'll work forever, and then instead they get fucked.
Visual effects are such a staple of like big budget films now. You don't get big budget films without CG anymore.
Yeah.
So the fact that we treat visual artists so bad is really fucked.
It's really fucked up. And I mean, okay, to be fair to this Mortal Kombat movie, the effects are often quite good.
Yeah.
Often quite good.
Most of the Sub-Zero stuff plays. Kung Lao has the best fucking fatality, and that looked really good.
That looked really good. That
glad,
is the best fatality.
Also, I'm glad that
I feel like that's where the moment everybody who wasn't expecting much fell in love.
Yeah.
You know, like when he did that, you were like, I wasn't even expecting this to be good, and that was cool. You know, like you're like, hell yeah.
It probably would have been that way for like Jack losing his arms by Sub-Zero if they hadn't already shown it in the trailers.
Right.
But I'm also glad Kung Lao gets like a legitimate flawless victory, because they do the flawless victory line in 95, except it's bullshit because Liu Kang took more than a few hits in that fight. So he's like, flawless victory. I'm like, bullshit. Who played the games on this set?
It's true though.
You just like, wanted to have a line from the games that you didn't know what it actually meant.
Right. Which is the major issue here, is that and I said it with Star Wars, and it seems to have worked out in the animated shows and in The Mandalorian, is you hand these properties over to fans. Stop giving it to people who just want to make money. Stop people who've never fucking heard of these properties. Like, fucking hand it to somebody who loves it. And you will get something great out of it. You know, like I said before, I think somebody behind the scenes in Mortal Kombat 1995 loved the games because the sets are so good.
Yeah.
All the minions are the red hooded dudes that are always in the background cheering in Mortal Kombat. And like, you could see the love there. And then in Scorpion's Revenge, there's absolute love going on. You know, like there's no question.
There's like little seeds and nuggets of love. Like, it's there, but they just don't have the know-how or the means to really execute it.
You know, it's like a big joke that like, oh, grandma's food is better because it's made with love. But it's fucking true. If you make a movie with love, it's going to taste better. You know, like if you fucking put your fucking soul, if you fucking rip it out and you put in the fucking art, it's going to be better. You know, like, and
And
people can smell it.
This movie
see
sort
it.
of like reeks of like, oh, we don't have as much money as we thought we were going to. I'm sure the plan was to do the tournament until they got their budget. Like, we can't do it. We just got to do setup for the tournament instead.
No, it kind of feels like it, and it kind of feels like WB was not fully confident in it either. You know, like they were like shit.
And that's the thing. This is what happens every single time, is that there's never any confidence for these things. Do you guys realize, I feel like these fucking execs never realize just how well these fucking games do.
Yeah.
Do you know how much money these games make?
Do you understand the literal video game industry?
And that's
$1 billion industry
and that's
constantly.
a much fucking higher admission price.
Right?
$60?
60, like, exactly. You know, like, and that's this. And
There's
I mean,
a fucking audience. People will know. People will come.
I think the reason why we're so like upset about it not being great is that the stories in the Mortal Kombat games are good, and they're well animated, and they feel right. You know, like, there's no moment where you're just like, who the fuck is this? You know, like, you are immediately like, yep, Mortal Kombat, fuck yeah, you know, like, and it just goes, you know, like, and again, it's a confidence thing. It is. It's just a confidence thing. It's just knowing what you got and going for it. Because even Detective Pikachu is the biggest fucking example of, oh, we can't just do a Pokemon movie. You're like, oh, we just didn't have fucking 7 seasons of a fucking animated show that's one of the most well-sold animated shows of all time.
There's games to take example from. There's the anime to take example from. There are
movies
various manga adaptations
that have all done well
from it that are actually tend to be a little darker than the anime and take the story a little more seriously. But they're just like, no, let's just do the spin-off game that no one cared about.
Which, yes, Detective Pikachu, cool. Like, but also, the fuck, you know, like,
it's like getting a Mario movie and it's Mario is missing.
Yeah.
It's like doing that first. You're like, why?
Why are we doing
It's the same fucking shit with like the Sonic movie. I mean, we'll do it, but he has to go to Earth and he has to be stuck in a police car for most of it.
It's the same thing as the
Just
Monster Hunter movie.
If I would not accept that as a plot for a Flash movie, why would I want it for a Sonic film?
Right?
If there was a fucking Flash film where he was stuck in a car with James Marsden for the entire time, you would be pissed.
If
why
you
is it
played
good
a game
for Sonic?
that was that. You're trying to compare it to other things, but if you play, like, if you literally said, hey, here's a Sonic game, you have a road trip for an hour and a half in the middle of the game, you'd be like, the fuck is going on? You know, like, that's the one, we say it's confidence, but it's also like asking yourself the fucking question sometimes, you know, like being like, hey, is this like the game? You know, like, but then you can't go too far because then you end up with Doom, where you're just like, oh, but we wanted to make it look like the game, but we don't really care about anything else, you know, like, and you're just like,
Plus, they didn't go for like the fucking demons in the Doom movie, and that annoyed me. And sometimes you also go too far where you alienate your audience, which is what I heard happened with the Warcraft film. Yeah, where it went too far.
Where it's just like, I wouldn't understand
to the
this
point
if I didn't
for like
play Warcraft.
To the point where like non-fans just didn't grasp it at all.
Yeah, and that's gonna happen, you know. And I mean, these is all growing pains. The number one thing I gotta say about Mortal Kombat 2021 is it does give me hope. Out of all the fucking video game movies, this gives me a glimmer of hope.
It's just one of those things where like it's just all baby steps. We're still just like creeping and creeping and creeping. It's just like, oh man, we went from bad video game movies to mediocre to okay at best. You know, give it another 15 years, we might get a great one.
But seriously, guys, it's so fucked. It's so fucked because it's true. It gives me a glimmer of hope, but like, it's almost like I won't see another good fucking video game movie for 5 years.
By the time we have like grandchildren, you know, like, they finally made the first good video game movie.
Right? You're just gonna be like, kids, I remember when they were all bad. Like, and you're just like,
okay, Grandpa.
Okay, Grandpa, go to bed now.
You take your vitamins.
Like, you're just like, Jesus Christ. It's just,
you don't understand, you whippersnappers.
You don't understand.
You never sat through the fucking live action Super Mario Brothers movie.
You fucking never saw the original Street Fighter. You know nothing. Like, it's just like, you know, like, it's, and that's the thing, is that in the middle of all this, you have Scorpion's Revenge, which is on money,
Again,
great cast, fucking awesome fights, and stands above these two live
that
actions.
one is limited by budget. It's a straight-to-video flick.
And and there's moments where you're like, that didn't look fantastic.
And yet it just gets it.
Yes. And that's it.
It's so weird.
You just gotta get it.
It's weird. I have this theory that when we finally get that first great one, it's gonna be from some unexpected property. I think it's gonna be like the Iron Man route for the MCU. Where like Iron Man pre-MCU was kind of like a C-list character. Like, let's be fair.
Yeah.
I feel like it's gonna be something unexpected.
It's so
like something a little more obscure. Like it ain't like a heavy hitter game franchise, but it'd be like, oh, for some reason we nailed this one.
I have hope for the fucking Gundam movie. You know,
well,
and I know that's not a video game, but there is video games about it. You know,
but it's, the source material is not specifically video game.
But it's this guy, Jordan
Vogt
Roberts. Gives me so much fucking hope. Follow him on Twitter, guys. Follow him on Twitter.
And to be honest, like him working on Metal Gear Solid is also the only one where I have like a very, 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 very cautious optimism for. You're just like, because I've heard him and seen him talk about the games with such revelry. We're like, and you understand it.
You seen this past week where he talks about Nier 2?
Nier Replicant, yeah.
And you're just kind of like, this guy gets it, you know, like, which like, that's so rare, you know, like just to be like, oh yeah, like he gets it, you know,
but
like
also bringing someone as prestigious as Brian K. Vaughan to write it.
Yeah.
But then also have Sunrise co-producing it to begin with. You're like, oh wow, if we actually have the people who make billions of dollars on this franchise actually involved with their adaptations, maybe we can sort of steer the ship in the right direction.
I love the IMBD plot summary for the Gundam movie. A war takes place involving giant robotic battlesuits. And you're like, wow, you really fucking cut to the core there, didn't you? You know, like, you're just like, okay.
I mean, yeah, you got it.
You got it.
Don't go off track.
Right? That's my exact thought with that. You're just like, okay, that's very vague, but all right.
And to be fair, Legendary has the practice. Like post Pacific Rim and Godzilla vs. Kong, you're like, maybe we got something here.
Maybe we can do something. And Legendary's like, no, I'm going to fuck it up. But no, they're not.
Legendary at least gets the genre.
Yeah. Unlike
hope.
Warner Brothers, obviously.
There's hope. There's a small hope.
There's hope. And so my thing about, and I think that the reason why a lot of people are like, oh, it's finally the good video game movie with this Mortal Kombat, is that, yes, this feels the most like your superhero movies. And yes, Mortal Kombat almost feels like a superhero movie. They've always tried to do that, you know, like tried to like reach that like that superhero feel. And it just falls into the same tropes, the same problems, the same fucking everything, you know, like.
But you guys will eat it up, and the complacency is part of the reason why we're taking so long to get good ones.
Yeah, and
it's like, no, it's good enough. Just like, no, have the same higher standards for these video game adaptations as you do with all the other shit.
Seriously, they set up at the end of this movie that they're gonna go look for Johnny Cage. If you even keep Cole Young in this next Mortal Kombat movie, I'm not fucking seeing it. No, I take it back. I'll fucking see it. But like, god damn it, dude. Like, god damn it, just get rid of him. Like, I don't care if, like, I don't care. Just, it's funny though, because they haven't announced if he's signed on for more Mortal Kombat movies.
It'd be funny if he just fucking disappeared.
Because the guy who plays Hanzo is signed for 3 movies. He announced recently. He's like, I'm Scorpion for 2 more Mortal Kombat movies.
Yeah, the actor who plays Sub-Zero says he's also contracted for a few.
And you're kind of like, good, but also
it would be funny for all this stupid build-up for Cole if he just fucking disappeared. Kind of like the one weird POV original character in the first Hellboy film.
Oh, yeah.
Remember how he was in there, but then he wasn't in the Golden Army at all?
Yeah.
Because they were just like, who the fuck is this guy? Why don't we just make Hellboy the main character? Why do we need this guy?
Yeah, they're just like, nah, never mind. They're like, never mind. So it's just Hellboy movie. I feel like Golden Army is Guillermo del Toro's like revenge for the problems Hellboy 1 that the studio fucking did, because it's just so Hellboy, you know, like Hellboy. I like Hellboy 2 more than I like Hellboy 1.
So do I. I like
because it's more fairy tale.
I like the Del Toro Hellboy movies, but my problem is they don't go like as high fantasy, like Lovecraftian sort of like horror enough. And it really suffers from like, make it like Men in Black. There's a lot of Men in Black in that first Hellboy film. It's like, oh, we have to be a secret organization now. Where in the Hellboy comics, like
BBPD,
the PBRD are they're just there and everyone knows them. People know who Hellboy is. It's just an established thing.
And I think it's wild we got a RIPD movie that like could tie into Hellboy, but it didn't at all. And
I don't think it's supposed to. Like BPRD and RIPD are like two different properties.
But they're
they
still
have the acronyms.
McNola?
I don't think it is.
You sure?
Look it up.
I'm gonna look it up. Whatever. But that's beside the point. Is that basically we love Mortal Kombat. You know, like this is one of those game franchises we've played our entire lives, and I'm not sitting here with high standards. I'm really not. I went into this Mortal Kombat 2021 being like, if this is better than 1995, I'll be happy. And you know what? I was happy that it was slightly better than 1995. You know, at least it had some good action scenes. You know, like at least. Like,
I said upon the initial like viewing that it's miles better than 95.
Yeah,
only because it's R-rated, and again, I will not forgive the PG-13 rating on that original film. Ever.
But like that's really it though.
But
it's better,
like,
but
saying much.
Yeah, right. It's better than a trash movie already. You know, you're just like,
And I've gotten a bunch of comments on that one too.
Yeah.
It's just like miles better than the original 2 live action films. Like, even the first one? Yes, even the first one.
Yeah, no, fucking.
Yes, even the first one.
The first one. Go,
God,
guys.
I fucking love that
please
first
go
movie
back.
so much.
It's on HBO Max. I watched it. I watched it yesterday, and I watched some more this morning when we were just trying to refresh. It's just not good, guys. Like, stop fucking, like, just stop. Like, I know, like, Deshaun's saying not to bully them, but, like,
Stop acting like that's the foundation. Stop acting like that's the peak.
The only good... I've heard somebody say to me one time, it's the only good video game movie. And you're like, no,
it isn't.
No, not even close, bro. It's one of those things that if you went back and watched, you'd be bored as hell. Because I was watching it being like, this is boring, you know? Like, and it's funny because they start off so strong at the beginning. They're like, okay, we get on the boat. And we got all these characters, and it's fucking going. And then they spend so long just fighting random characters or grunts. Like, and introducing Goro and like all these other things, and you're just kind of like, can we fucking fight the Mortal Kombat characters? Yeah. Like, what the fuck? And I give credit to this one where they're just like, yep, you are going to fight a Mortal Kombat character, but then they do the cardinal sin of the main character not being a Mortal Kombat character. You know, like, so they like, it's one of those things where the scale fucking tips this way, and then it just fucking and shoots right down. And you're just like, God damn it. But guys, I'm pretty sure that's all we got to say about this.
We got angry
enough. Please check out. Well, first off, all these movies are on HBO Max. We are not sponsored.
For now.
Just
do it while you still can.
Do what you can. Check out galaxygeek.com where all this podcast is, and on every other podcast network you can possibly fucking think of. We're on everything.
Pretty much.
But you can also see our beautiful faces on YouTube. You know, subscribe, hit that fucking like button, whatever fucking works. You know, like...
Give us the support. Because YouTube ain't going to. We swear too much.
They're like, that ain't for kids. You ain't getting shit, bro. And you're just like, no, YouTube. But if you like swearing movie reviews, if you like fucking being bluntly honest about Mortal Kombat movies and games, fucking subscribe, like, follow, whatever the fuck. But make sure that you follow me and Deshaun on Instagram and Twitter. I'm Yupfrank on there.
I'm Montcrack on there.
And mainly because we're going to start showing off some of the stuff that we have related to the episodes when we do them. Mm-hmm. But if you really want to see what's on the warped shelves, if you want to see what we're getting, what
I always
what
post
our new
like
stuff is,
what I buy, collectibles, comics. I'm usually posting about whatever movies I'm watching late at night. For some reason, it's always fucking 11 p.m. I just get in the mood to watch something.
It just fucking feels like it.
Yeah, I'm a night owl anyway, so.
And yeah, follow us on those things if you want to see that like behind the scenes. It also kind of gets you a little peek into what we're gonna do next, you know, like what we're up to, what the next episode will be. Speaking of which, the next episode you guys will be seeing is our review of Invincible on Amazon Prime, which fucking get excited for that one, guys. And by that I mean go to Amazon Prime right now and fucking watch that shit. Because we got shit to say.
It's going to be an interesting one because it's going to be from the perspective of someone who's read all the comics, which is me, and someone who's read a little bit. You read a little bit.
I read a little bit.
A little bit, but is mostly just going to be familiar with the show. So you're going to have two different perspectives.
You know, and we want to keep. So one of the things I want you guys to fucking reach out, fucking comment down below. What episode do you guys want? What fucking thing should we cover for you guys? What is something you love that we have not covered yet? Because we do have our ideas. We're pretty much set for the next couple of months.
Yeah,
really.
It's been much easier.
It's been much easier.
You get those like struggle weeks sometimes where we like rack our brains.
But this one's quite easy. Yeah, we got Invincible coming up, and then there's a lot more we gotta cover. I won't fucking leak it or nothing, but we got some more stuff coming up down the pipe. But guys, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
See you next.